She was my best friend. Hina and I had grown up together, shared secrets, heartbreaks, and late-night food cravings. So, when she introduced Ion as her new boyfriend, I smiled like any loyal friend would. But the truth was, something shifted inside me the moment I saw him. He wasn't just attractive, he had a quiet pull, a stillness in his eyes that held too many unsaid things. I told myself it was nothing. I kept reminding myself that lines aren't meant to be crossed, but lines blur quickly when temptation doesn't even try to hide. He and I didn't talk much, just shared occasional glances during their movie nights or coffee meets, but I noticed how his gaze lingered, not inappropriately, just enough to be remembered. It was subtle, never loud. The kind of attention that you can't prove happened, but you feel it days later. And then came the night when Hina called me, her voice low, frustrated. She didn't even hesitate. She said it straight, like she'd been holding it in. That Ion was too thick, and it hurt. That they hadn't been able to properly be intimate. She laughed awkwardly, then went quiet. I listened, pretending to empathize, but the words didn't leave me. The problem wasn't what she said, it was what it triggered. I hadn't thought about him like that before, or maybe I had, but buried it deep. Now, all I could think about was what it felt like to be too much for someone, and whether I'd feel the same, whether I'd handle it better. I hated myself for thinking that, but it kept coming back. I started replaying our small interactions, his hand brushing mine when passing a glass, the way his shoulder rested just slightly closer than it needed to when we sat on the couch. I noticed how he looked at her sometimes, patient but distant, like something was missing, and he was too proud to admit it. I thought about saying something, even telling Hina that maybe the issue was more than just physical. But who was I to analyze their relationship? Instead, I said nothing and kept observing. That's when she asked me to talk to him. Just casually. She said, maybe I could help him open up. She thought I could reach him. The irony was almost cruel. She had no idea what door she was nudging open. I told myself I'd keep it innocent. I even rehearsed neutral conversations in my head. But something inside me had already decided otherwise. The next time I saw him, it felt different. I was hyper-aware of everything, his hands, his voice, the way his shirt clung to his chest when he moved. We talked, briefly. He asked me how Hina was really feeling. I gave a vague answer. He didn't press, but the air between us had thickened. I knew he could sense it too. There's a kind of silence that only exists between people who are trying not to want each other. And we stayed in that silence for a long time. I started dreaming about him. Nothing explicit at first, just long stares, almost kisses, a weightless pull I couldn't shake. I'd wake up annoyed, frustrated, guilty, but also excited. That's the part one hated most. I wanted him. And the more I denied it, the louder it got. I wondered what he thought about late at night. If he ever pictured me instead of her, if he remembered that one moment when our eyes met across the room and neither of us looked away. I started dressing differently when I knew I'd see him, more casual, but more deliberate. A little skin, a softer perfume, lips slightly tinted. I never admitted it, even to myself. But I was preparing, not for anything certain but for the possibility. I watched how he looked at me. It was never obvious, but it was always there. Not lust, not even flirtation, just permission. The kind that waits until you take the first step. I should have walked away, should have created space. But I didn't. I stayed. I lingered. I let the possibility breathe and expand until it felt like inevitability. The guilt was quiet, always sitting in the back, but never enough to stop me. Because the truth was, I wanted to be wanted, not out of revenge or competition, but because in that silent pull, I felt seen, desired without explanation. Hina would never understand. And I wasn't ready to tell her. Not yet, because the story hadn't even begun. I didn't plan it. That's the part I kept telling myself. It just happened. One message turned into 3. A harmless joke led to a phone call that lasted longer than it should have. He wasn't flirtatious, but his voice had a softness that invited trust. He asked questions Hina never asked me. Not about her, about me, my work, my stress, the things I didn't even know I wanted to say aloud. There was no mention of that night Hina had vented to me, no reference to what she said about him, but it hung in the air between us like a loaded silence. I met him that evening without much thought. Hina was away. He looked at me like he was searching for a reason not to say what he was thinking. I didn't give him one. I sat too close. He didn't move away. There was no kiss, no line crossed in the obvious sense, but everything about our posture, our breath, the way we held back, it felt more intimate than if we had. His hand brushed my knee. I didn't stop him. My body was warm before anything even happened. My thoughts were louder than my conscience. We didn't say much. Just moved closer until our mouths met. It wasn't rushed. It felt like picking up something that had always been waiting. I could tell he was nervous, careful. His hands gripped me like he didn't want to break anything. I didn't flinch when he moved lower, but my mind was spiraling. Every inch felt heavier with consequence. I told myself if I stopped now, it wouldn't count, but I didn't. His breath was hot against my neck. My fingers tightened around his arms. Then he reached for more. I felt it. All of it. He tried to enter me, but the pressure was too much. My breath caught. He paused, read my reaction instantly. Didn't push, didn't ask, just stopped. That pause said more than any apology ever could. He looked me in the eyes like he needed permission, not just physically but emotionally. I nodded. We tried again, slower. Still, my body resisted. It wasn't pain, exactly, it was a block I couldn't explain. I whispered, maybe not now, and he pulled back, held me instead. No protests, no disappointment, just silence and the sound of our hearts catching up to our choices. We lay there, still half-clothed, not saying a word. He didn't reach for his phone, didn't rush. His hand stayed on my waist like he belonged there. I should have felt relief, but I felt something heavier, not guilt, not yet, just realization that this wasn't about lust. If it were, he would have been frustrated. He wasn't. He just looked at me like I was something he didn't expect to feel so much for, and that scared me more than anything. Because I hadn't just touched him, I had touched a part of myself I'd been pretending didn't exist. I went home and didn't sleep. I kept replaying the moment he pulled back. How gentle it was. How patient. That restraint felt more intimate than anything we might have done. My body was aching, but not from what didn't happen, from what it almost was. I kept thinking, this should have been a warning, a sign to stop, step back, confess. But instead, it felt like a promise. That next time, we wouldn't stop. That next time, I'd be ready. The days that followed felt suspended. We didn't talk about it, but everything in his eyes said he hadn't moved on. And neither had I. Hina was back. She called me, talked about dinner plans with him. I listened, acted normal, all while hiding this secret that was burning through my chest. She said they were okay now, that maybe they just needed more time. I nodded, said the right things, but inside, I already knew. She was trying to fix something that had already broken. She just didn't see the cracks yet. I didn't try to meet him again right away. I told myself I needed space, but space didn't feel like distance anymore. It felt like pressure, like something unfinished, like a door left open on purpose. And every time I remembered how he stopped, how he held me, how he didn't turn, or why I knew it was only a matter of time. This wasn't about a mistake anymore. It was about wanting something that didn't belong to me and knowing I was going to take it anyway. He didn't text for days, neither did I, but silence doesn't always mean absence. It stayed between us, thick with memory, stretched tight with anticipation. I kept checking my phone without reason. Every time it lit up, I hoped it was him, and when it finally was, he didn't say much, just 5 words. Are you still thinking about it? I didn't reply immediately. I just stared at the message like it had already touched me. I knew what he meant. We both did. This wasn't about fixing what didn't work. It was about trying again fully, honestly, without fear this time. When I saw him again, I didn't wear hesitation. I wore intent. I'd spent enough nights wondering, enough time second-guessing my own desire. There was no small talk. Space for guilt anymore. Only hunger, quiet, heavy, patient. He didn't touch me like someone exploring. He touched me like someone returning. My body didn't resist this time. It responded, slowly, then, all at once. I knew what I was allowing, and I wanted all of it. The pressure, the stretch, the slow surrender. The discomfort from before was gone, not because he was any less but because I had stopped fighting what I already knew I wanted. Asterisk, I didn't flinch. I didn't pause. I let him in, fully, until my breath shortened and my thoughts collapsed. There were no words exchanged. Just hands, heat, and the rhythm of two people who had waited long enough. Every inch felt like a decision. Every movement was soaked in the weight of betrayal. But none of it stopped me. Not even the image of Hina. Not even the voice in my head that screamed this was wrong. Because in that moment, I didn't feel wrong. I felt chosen. I felt seen. I felt owned in a way I never had before. Asterisk, his hands were steady, his breathing deep. He didn't rush, didn't lose control. He watched me, not just with his eyes but with his entire body. And I let him see the part of me that craved to be taken without shame. There was no resistance, no retreat, just raw permission. I wasn't asking for love, or validation, or even forgiveness. I was asking to be let completely. And he gave that to me, without question, without apology. Asterisk afterwards. We didn't speak for a long time. The silence wasn't awkward. It was the kind that only comes after something inevitable finally happens. I felt his breath on my neck, warm and slow. He traced his finger along my spine like he was memorizing it. And then he whispered something that caught me off guard. You're not like her. I didn't respond. Because I didn't need to. That one line undid more than I expected. It wasn't a compliment. It was a confession. And it made everything feel even heavier. Asterisk, I lay there, staring at the ceiling, wondering what it would cost to keep this secret. Hina trusted me. She loved him. She had no idea that while she was trying to make it work, he had already found what he needed somewhere else, with me. And I wasn't innocent. I didn't trip into this. I opened the door, stepped in, and shut it behind me without looking back. That made me worse. But it also made me honest. Asterisk, when I got up to leave, he didn't ask me to stay. He just watched. His eyes weren't confused or regretful. They were calm, like he knew I'd be back. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not soon, but eventually. And he was probably right. There was no closure between us, just a shared understanding that what we started wasn't over. It just paused when necessary. Asterisk, I walked home in silence. The guilt didn't hit like a storm. It settled like dust. Quiet, stubborn, permanent. I knew I had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. I had touched something that wasn't mine, and it didn't just fit, it consumed me. I thought I would feel regret. I didn't. I felt powerful, desired, unapologetically chosen. And that scared me more than anything else. Because, now, I knew what I was capable of. And I wasn't sorry. Not even a little. Asterisk,